Thanks for joining us on Backwoods Pursuit. Today we've got a special treat for you, so we're going to do a diaphragm elk call review. We're going to look at 3 brands on the market today that you might be familiar with. The Native By Carlton series. We're going to look at the Phelps Game Calls, the AMP series, as well as the Rocky Mountain Game Calls, some of their new and their older stuff. I'm going to demonstrate each of the line of calls for you, each brand. As always, if you like our content, we sure would appreciate it if you would subscribe. I'm going to put links in the description to all of these calls and all these products so you can check them out on your own time. If you go check out our website, we've got a special treat for you there. I'm going to give you my backcountry gear worksheet, which is going to help you dial in your own gear list when you head to the backcountry, calculate your weight of your pack for you in each of the items. It's a pretty cool little tool. So go check that out and let's go check out some elk calls. Alright, so before we get started with demonstrating some calls, I want to talk to you about what makes some of the calls different between the brands and the types. So you've probably heard of the AMP frame from Phelps, and this is what that looks like. And it's a smaller frame than the Native calls here. The Native calls have a little bit wider frame right across here, which can fit in your mouth differently depending on your palate size. So it's important to try these out before you decide on what call you're going to take into the woods. So back to back here, you can see a little bit of the difference in size here. So you've got a little bit larger overall call with the Native call. So starting in 2019, the Native calls are going to be the same size as the Rocky Mountain and the Phelps calls as far as the tape here. The frame, I believe, is still going to be the same as these calls, so they're going to be a little bit wider frame. Now the difference there, the benefit of the wider frame is it gives you more latex to work with when you're using the call. So it can give you, with a little bit of practice, it can give you more ability to do more with the call, but it does require a little bit of practice that way. So another thing to note with these is that they do, because they are a wider frame, they do require to be placed a little bit farther back into your mouth. So if you have a bad gag reflex, you want to be aware of that. Just take some time to get used to that. So that's some of the main differences here. The others here is the types of latex that you're going to see. There's going to be different colors, of course, and different thicknesses, which the thickness is going to, of course, make it either easier or harder to blow on. And then it's also going to another factor here is going to be how many layers of latex. So you're going to have a single latex, a 1.5, also a 2 and a 3 layers of latex in some of the calls. So of course the more latex you add, the bigger sound you're going to get, the louder sound you're going to get, and then that also goes for the thickness as well. The thicker the latex, the louder sound you're going to get, the more volume and the more growl you can get out of it typically. So it's going to be on the bigger bull type sound if the latex is thicker or if there's more layers of it. So that's kind of the generals there. So let's go get started demonstrating some of the differences. Alright, so the first one we're going to demonstrate here is the Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls Champ. It's the orange one in the Elk 101 series. It's what I'd call the cow-calf or the beginner type call. It's really easy to use, it's easy to learn on, but it's also a great call if you're needing to get quiet, if you don't want to make a loud cow or calf sound. So it's really a good call that way. So I'm going to demonstrate that now for you. So that's the Reaper. Real easy to use, really has some good tone quality, especially in those cow and calf sounds. Kind of a nasally sound, but really easy to use. The next one in the Elk 101 series is the green one here. This is the Allstar. It's, I would say, one step up as far as latex stretch over the Champ there. It's just a little bit tighter latex, so it's going to give you a little bit better of Bugle on the higher end if you need to go that route, but it's also still very easy to use and makes some great sounds. So I'll demonstrate that now for you. So that is the Allstar by Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls. It's a great call, gives you some great tones in the low end and the high end, and it's very easy to use as well. One thing I will note that you should probably know about the Elk 101 series calls, at least for me, I get that little bit of a break in the tone on the top end when you're going through the octaves on a bugle. So it's easy to work around and easy to use to your advantage when you're calling, but be aware that that is there, at least it has been for me. Whereas some of the others in the different lines, even in the Rocky Mountain lines, don't have that. So just be aware of that with these calls, but they're good sounding calls. So the last call in the Elk 101 series is the white one here. It is the Contender. This is a great call and probably a little bit tighter latex than the other two. And again, it's going to give you just a little bit better on the high end as far as a little more volume, a little bit more ability to really reach out there if you need to make a little bit louder call. So this also gives you those great low end tones if a cow and cow calf type sounds, but it gives you a little bit more of a mature cow sound. So I'm going to demonstrate this one for you real quick. So that is the Contender by Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls. These three calls, the Elk 101 series calls, make for a great combo. It's a great combo package that covers everything from your cow-calf sounds up to your larger bull sounds of the Contender here. It's a great series and a good one to learn on because the frames are real easy to use and it's not going to give you that gag reflex of a larger call. So let's look at the next series in the Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls, which is their brand new series. We'll take a look at those now. Alright, the next series of calls we're going to talk about from Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls is their brand new for 2019 gold plated series. Here we've got the Reaper, as well as the Black Magic and the Spellbound. So I'm going to demonstrate each of these for you so you can hear the differences in some of these tones. So this one here is the blue one, it's the Reaper. I'm going to demonstrate that now for you. So that is the Reaper in the Gold Plate series by Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls. Let's look at the next one. This call in the Gold Plate series is the Black Magic here. This one is what I would call the step up from the Reaper, the one we just did. It's a little bit harder to use, a little thicker latex, I believe, a little tighter stretch on the latex. I'll show you how this one sounds. So that is the Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls Black Magic on the new gold plate. Has a great nasally sound down on the low end. Hopefully you could hear that in the video, but also gives you kind of a raspy high end sound. So a great big bull type aggravated sound. Really a nice sound on this call. I really like this one. Let's look at the next one. The last one in the Gold Plate series is the Spellbound. This is the purple one, and it gives you that real dirty upper end sound. So when you hit those bugle tones, you're going to hear it's kind of raspy, dirty, just broken up, and it's that big bull, that aggressive bull sound that you want when you got a real aggressive bull that you're trying to get angry to get coming into you. Gives you some great lower end sounds as well, the cow sounds, more mature cows, but also a nice nasally sound there. So I'll demonstrate this one for you now. So that is the Spellbound by Rocky Mountain Honey Calls. It gives you that great, just that real nasally, low end, larger cow sound, that matriarch cow sound. If you're needing that noise, you can also get some of those younger cow sound, also little calf sounds if you need to. But it really excels in that nasally, older cow sound, as well as that real aggressive bull sound. That's what this call is. So let's look at the last couple calls here by Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls. It's the Steve Shappell series. All right, so the last couple I'm going to demonstrate for you in the Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls line are the Steve Shappell series. I've got two of these here. The blue one here is the Challenger, or the Challenge Call, and then this one is the Estrus, or the cow and estrus sound is what he calls that. What you're going to notice with these two, this is a single latex, but it really gives you just a great nasally sound. If you're wanting that nasally, real raspy cow sound, it's meant to be that cow and estrus sound. That's what that one sounds like, and it's a great call for that. It doesn't do great on bugles, of course. It's not designed for that, but you can get some spike squeals or young bull squeals out of it. And then the Challenge bugle, or the Challenge diaphragm here, is exactly what it sounds. It's a nice aggressive sound if you're wanting to challenge a bull. It does really well in that regard. This one is also a single latex, but I've had this actually for a couple of years, and it's done really, really well, and I've called in some nice bulls with its diaphragm. So the first one I'm going to demonstrate here is the Estrus Call. Let's take a look at this. Alright, so that's the yellow call, the Estrus Call. As you can tell, it just has a great tonal quality. I hope you could hear that in the video. It has a great raspy tone quality. It doesn't do so great on bugles. You can get a little bit of volume out of it, but not a lot. So that's going to be a call that is going to be mostly used for your cow and estrus type of a call. The last one I'm going to demonstrate for you here from the Rocky Mountain Calls is the Challenge by Steve Shappell. So that is the Challenge Bugle by Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls, Steve Shappell series. It does a great job of that high challenged, high-pitched sound, to really throw that sound out there. It's an aggressive sound. It is more difficult, certainly, to get your cow and calf sounds out of this one. It can be done, but it's definitely more challenging. So that is the Rocky Mountain Calls series of diaphragms. There's some great calls in there, and they can do a fantastic job of calling in elk for you. Of course, the most important thing is to find the calls that fit your mouth and your style the best. Everybody's mouth is a little bit different, and that's the critical part in selecting diaphragm calls, picking one that fits your mouth and your style. Let's now go look at the Phelps line of calls.